Good day everyone and welcome to our discussion for Introduction to the Philosophy of the Human Person. Our most essential learning competency will be distinguish a holistic perspective from a partial point of view. Nakikilala ang pagkakaiba ng pangkabuang pananaw mula sa pananaw ng mga bahagi lamang. Lesson 1.1 Definition of Philosophy. We will be defining philosophy in its etymological origin, philosophy as a science, as natural light of reason, study of all things, and first cause or highest principle. The start of philosophy. The separation of philosophy and science from theology began in Greece in Miletus, in the western coast of what is now Turkey, during the 6th century BC. Thales, as an astronomer and mathematician, was considered by Aristotle to be the first philosopher of the Greek tradition. While Pythagoras coined the word, the first known elaboration on the topic was conducted by Plato, mentor and teacher of Aristotle. Thales is called the father of Western philosophy. However, Pythagoras, also a mathematician, was said to have been the first man to call himself a philosopher. In fact, the word is indebted to him for the word philosophy. Okay, let us now look at the etymological origin of the word philosophy. It was coined by Pythagoras from the two Greek words. But first, let us know what etymology is. Etymology is the study of the history of the word. It is derived from Greek words etymos and logos. Etymos means root, origin, cause, basis in history, and logos means study. So the etymological origin where Pythagoras coined philosophy are the two Greek words philia and sophia. Philia na ang ibig sabihin ay love, pagnanais o paghahangad, at sophia na ang ibig sabihin ay wisdom o karunungan. We also consider philosophy as a science because it has a systematic way of investigation that employs certain procedure. Just like any other science, it is also an organized body of knowledge. It uses observations, experimentations, and sometimes measurements to explain something we see in the natural world. Philosophy always employs certain procedures to achieve truthful and comprehensive conclusions. Aristotle once said that philosophy is the science which considers truth. Philosophy as natural light of reasoning. Philosophy investigates things, not by using any laboratory instrument or investigative tools, neither on the basis of supernatural revelation. Otherwise, it becomes theology. Instead, the philosopher uses his natural capacity to think, or simply human reasons alone, or the so-called unaided reason. Philosophy could also be defined as the study of all things. This sets the distinction between philosophy from other sciences. All other sciences concern themselves with a particular object of investigation. The reason is that philosophy is not one-dimensional or partial. A philosopher does not limit himself to a particular object or inquiry, or let us say specialization. It is multidimensional and holistic. Sa mga tuwid, ang filosofiya ay siyang ina na umanak sa lahat ng mga iba pang siyensya o pag-aaral, kaya't ito ay study of all things o pag-aaral ng lahat ng bagay. In reality, all other sciences was a result of philosophy answering hugely thought and important questions. To understand philosophy, let us view philosophy as first cause or highest principle. In understanding philosophy as the first cause or highest principle, let us understand the word principle first. Principle is a fundamental truth or proposition that serves as the foundation for a system or belief or behavior or for a chain of reasoning. In other words, philosophy as the highest principle is considered as fundamental law wherein all succeeding laws will follow. To further understand what highest principle is, let us discuss the first principles. Principle of identity. Whatever it is, or whatever is, whatever is not, everything is what it is, everything is its own being, and not being is not being. To simplify, the principle of identity states that it is what it is. Let us look at the example. A is equals to A. Let us look at this. If it is a cat, then it is a cat. If Manila is the capital of the Philippines, then it is true that Manila is the capital of the Philippines. One must be able to say, if a thing is A, then it is A. A thing, object, person, entity, or concept cannot continue to exist and at the same time stop existing. Next, principle of non-contradiction. It is impossible for a thing to be and not to be at the same time and at the same respect. To simplify, the principle of non-contradiction states that it is not what it isn't. Let us look at the examples. A is not equivalent to non-A. If it is a cat, then it is not a non-cat. If Manila is the capital of the Philippines, then it is not true that Manila is the non-capital of the Philippines. In another context, if it is raining, then it could not be raining in the same place and in the same time. Makes sense. Next, principle of excluded middle. A thing is either is or is not. Everything must be either be or not be, between being and not being. There is no middle ground possible. To simplify, the principle of the excluded middle states that it is either is or it isn't. One must be able to say a thing is either A or non-A. A thing, object, person, entity, and concept must be either exactly as it is, described or not. Giving you an example, either A or non-A. It is either a cat or it is a non-cat. Either Manila is the capital of the Philippines or it is not the capital of the Philippines. The principle of excluded middle is simple. It only states that the statement such as raining is either true or false. No middle ground, no alternative, no maybe, or answers in between. Principle of excluded middle, it's just yes or no, true or false. Lastly is the principle of sufficient reason. The principle of sufficient reason holds that for every state of affairs or true proposition, there is an explanation of why it is the way it is. According to the principle itself, nothing exists without a sufficient reason for its being and existence. In short, everything has a reason. In 17th century Gottfried Leibniz, a Greek philosopher, used the principle of sufficient reason to support the existence of God. In generalizing the meaning of philosophy, philosophy is the study of general and fundamental problems, such as those connected with existence, knowledge, values, reason, mind, and language. Philosophy is the rational attempt to formulate, understand, and answer fundamental questions. Ang filosofiya ay ang mapagkilatis na pag-aaral sa mga pinakamalalim na katanungan na maaaring itanong ng sangkatauhan. Sinisikap nitong unawain ang mga suliranin na mayroong malawak na saklaw at nagsisilbing ugat sa mas marami pang mga tanong tungkol sa katotohanan, tunay na kahulugan ng ating buhay, saligan at nilalaman ng ating kaalaman, mga bagay na binibigyang halaga, at ang talagang ipinapahiwatig natin sa gamit ng iba't ibang anyo ng pakikipagtalastasan. Natatangi ang filosofiya sa pagtalakay ng mga tanong na ito dahil na sa mahigpit at binalangkas nitong pamamaraan na ginamit ang rasyonal na mapangatwiran na pakikipagtalastasan. Sagutin ang susunod na guided learning sa inyong learning portfolio. Guided Learning Output Number 1, Week 2. Write examples or sample sentences on your own that shows how philosophy can be. Principle of identity, principle of non-contradiction, principle of excluded middle, and principle of sufficient reason. Refer to the guided instructional video and the examples being mentioned. So what you're going to do in this first part is you have to create on your own a sample or version of the principles being mentioned on this lesson. Number 2, write down your concepts about the importance of philosophy. Give examples of these in number 1, politics, sports, law, studying, workplace, and daily life. Again, the question is your concept about the importance of philosophy. In other words, what is the importance of philosophy in all the 6 being mentioned on this guidelines? So thank you and see you on our next lesson. Bye!